with some massive news that just came out this morning. Why don't you guys fill us in? What's the plans going forward for 2026?
Look, I'm gonna start this off and just say, I mean, we're part of the NHRA, man.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
We
Did
are
you ever think you would say that?
NHRA drivers.
Street racing wasn't supposed to go mainstream, but Street Outlaws changed that overnight. One minute, these guys were racing in the dark, and next, they were national names with cameras in their faces. But what the show didn't always show is what came after. Because once the spotlight hit, things got complicated, fast. Some turned that fame into real money and power. Others ran straight into troubles they couldn't outrun. And honestly, the stories behind the scenes hit harder than anything on the street. So what really happened when the cameras stopped rolling? And where did it all go wrong or right? Join us as we reveal how the Street Outlaws stars are doing now. Flip, the tragedy that shook everyone. Tyler Pretty, fondly known amongst his fans as Flip, was living the dream. At just 31 years old, this racing prodigy had everything going for him. Talent, passion, a growing fan base, and a future that looked unstoppable. Then, in 2013, everything came crashing down in the most devastating way possible. Flip took his own life with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and the street racing world was left in absolute shock. Nobody saw it coming. Here was this young guy who seemed to have it all together, racing at the highest level, appearing on a hit TV show, surrounded by friends and fellow racers. But behind that smile and those racing victories was someone fighting battles nobody could see. The truth about Flip's struggles with depression and mental health only came out after his death. Those closest to him revealed that he'd been dealing with demons that were completely invisible to the outside world. What makes Flip's story even more heartbreaking is how it exposed the toxic culture of silence around mental health in the racing community. Street racing, like most car culture, is all about being tough, being self-reliant, and never showing weakness. Admitting you're struggling, asking for help, that was seen as a weakness. And that mindset literally killed Tyler Pretty. Big Chief took Flip's death particularly hard. In interviews, he's spoken emotionally about losing his friend and how he wishes he'd seen the signs. The guilt of not knowing, not being able to help, that's something the entire Street Outlaws cast has had to live with. They were right there, racing alongside him, and they had no idea how much he was suffering. The impact of Flip's death rippled through the entire show and the racing community. Suddenly, people started having real conversations about mental health. Racers began opening up about their own struggles with depression and anxiety. The hyper-masculine culture that had made asking for help seem impossible started to crack, just a little. Flip's tragedy forced people to realize that toughness isn't about suffering in silence. It's about having the courage to reach out when you're drowning. Street Outlaws had to figure out how to move forward after losing one of their own. Flip had been featured prominently in early seasons, and his presence was a big part of what made the show work. Production faced tough questions about whether the pressures of sudden fame and television had contributed to Flip's mental health crisis. While nobody could prove a direct connection, it made everyone involved think hard about the cost of reality TV stardom. After such a devastating loss, you'd think the Street Outlaws family would catch a break. But Daddy Dave's story was about to take an equally terrifying turn that nearly ended his life too. What happened next left everyone wondering if he'd ever race again. Daddy Dave, the crash that almost ended everything. Dave Comstock wasn't just any racer on Street Outlaws. He was one of the most beloved personalities on the entire show. His Chevy Nova Goliath was legendary, and his skills behind the wheel, combined with his mechanical genius, made him a fan favorite. Then came the day that changed everything. In 2015, Daddy Dave was behind the wheel doing what he does best, racing at absolutely insane speeds. Then, in a split second, disaster strikes. The Goliath flips. Not just once, but multiple times, tumbling end over end at speeds that should have killed him. The crash was so violent, so catastrophic, that everyone watching thought they'd just witnessed Daddy Dave's death on camera. He survived. Barely. But the injuries were serious. He had to go through months of recovery, painful rehabilitation, and psychological trauma. Most people would walk away, say, "I'm done, that's it," and never look back. The crash destroyed Goliath completely, and it nearly destroyed Daddy Dave's career and life. But here's where the story gets incredible. Daddy Dave is not most people. This guy attacked his recovery with the same intensity he brought to racing. Physical therapy, rehab, working through the pain, he did it all. And the whole time, he had this single-minded goal: get back in a race car. People thought he was crazy, and his doctors probably thought he was insane. But Daddy Dave wasn't about to let a near-death experience end his racing career. The psychological aspect was arguably harder than the physical recovery. Getting back behind the wheel after a crash like that requires confronting your mortality every single day. Every time he sat in a car, he had to push past the memory of tumbling through the air, not knowing if he was going to live or die. That takes courage that most people simply don't have. Rebuilding Goliath became symbolic of his own resurrection. Working with sponsors and his team, Daddy Dave didn't just recreate what he'd lost, he built something better. The new Goliath incorporated lessons learned from the crash, new safety features, and cutting-edge technology. It was like he was saying, "You didn't kill me, you just made me stronger." And incredibly, Daddy Dave came back and started racing again at the highest level. Not just participating, but actually competing and winning. The crash that should have ended everything instead became part of his legend. He proved that you can face your worst nightmare, literally flip through the air at terminal velocity, and still come back stronger than before. Today, Daddy Dave is active on social media, sharing race footage and connecting with fans. He's continued with Street Outlaws in various capacities, appearing in spin-offs and special events while building his own media presence. His mechanical shop stays busy with racers, seeking out his expertise and fabrication skills. The financial side has worked out too. Between racing, YouTube content, sponsored posts, and his mechanical work, Daddy Dave has built a sustainable career. He's proven that surviving a catastrophic crash doesn't mean your racing career is over. It might just be the beginning of a new chapter. Daddy Dave survived the impossible and came back stronger, but not everyone who left Street Outlaws had such a dramatic reason. One mysterious racer simply vanished without explanation, walking away from fame and money as if they meant nothing. What made Chief Ducky disappear? Chief Ducky, the man who rejected fame. Chief Ducky had everything that reality TV stars dream about: fame, recognition, and a platform to build a business empire. And he just walked away. Richard Duckworth, the enigmatic old-school racer known as Chief Ducky, simply decided that fame wasn't worth the cost, and he vanished. Reality TV stars usually cling to their 15 minutes of fame as if their lives depended on it. They'll do anything to stay relevant, to keep the cameras on them, to maintain that public profile. But Ducky? He looked at all of that and said, "No thanks," in the most definitive way possible. Ducky was different from the start. Older than most competitors, with decades of racing experience under his belt, he brought old-school credibility and gravitas to Street Outlaws. His approach to racing was methodical and calculated. representing a different generation's perspective. While younger racers were all about aggression and flash, Ducky was about precision and experience. But, as the show went on, Ducky appeared less and less frequently. Then he just stopped, with no big announcement, no final episode where he dramatically quit, or a social media post explaining his decision. He just faded into the background and then disappeared entirely. Fans were left wondering what happened, speculating about health issues, conflicts with other racers, or some behind-the-scenes drama. The truth is actually way more interesting than any conspiracy theory. Ducky simply didn't want to do it anymore. The television aspect of Street Outlaws held zero appeal for him. The manufactured drama, the production schedules, the scripted conflicts created for entertainment value, none of it aligned with why he'd fallen in love with street racing decades earlier. Since leaving the show, Chief Ducky has maintained an almost total blackout on public life. No Instagram documenting every moment, no engaging with fans, or monetizing his YouTube channel or his expertise. For someone who briefly lived in the reality television spotlight, he's reclaimed his privacy so completely that it's actually impressive. Before he went completely dark, Ducky expressed concerns about how Street Outlaws was affecting street racing culture. While the exposure brought attention to the sport, it also distorted reality. The show created celebrities rather than racers, prioritized entertainment over authenticity, and drew unwanted law enforcement attention to racing communities across the country. Chief Ducky chose peace over fame, but another racer took a completely different path. How did the face of Street Outlaws end up leaving his own creation? Big Chief, the shocking exit, and empire building. Justin Shearer, also known as Big Chief, was the undisputed face of Street Outlaws. He created the list, dominated Oklahoma City streets with his iconic Pontiac Le Mans, the Crow, and basically built the foundation that made the show possible. Then, in a move that shocked everyone, he walked away from the very show he helped create. The reasons for leaving were complicated and explosive. Creative differences with production were just the surface. The real issue? Big Chief felt Street Outlaws had betrayed its core mission. The show that started as authentic street racing had become another reality TV drama fest, with manufactured conflicts and scripted storylines replacing genuine racing competition. For someone who'd poured his heart into building something authentic, watching it become fake television was unbearable. There were also tensions with how races were being set up and filmed. Big Chief wanted real street racing, not choreographed television moments. The compromises required for television production clashed with his vision of what the show should be. And unlike cast members who just show up and race, Big Chief had invested too much in Street Outlaws to watch it become something he didn't believe in. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Big Chief's personal life exploded at the same time. His marriage to Alicia Shearer fell apart in a very public way. After years together and 2 sons, the relationship ended. The divorce played out partially in the public eye, with fans taking sides and social media becoming a battlefield for people who had opinions about his personal life. The reason for the divorce? Big Chief started a relationship with Jackie Brosh, another racer. Now, whether that relationship started before or after the marriage ended is something people still debate furiously online. What's undeniable is that Big Chief and Jackie are now together, both personally and professionally, and that transition was messy. Jackie isn't just Big Chief's girlfriend. She's his racing partner and business partner. Together, they launched a performance shop that has become a serious player in the racing world. This isn't some vanity project or cash grab. It's a legitimate business serving serious racers with real performance needs. Financially, the move appears to have been brilliant. Big Chief has multiple revenue streams now: Midwest street cars, YouTube ad revenue, merchandise sales, sponsored content, and race winnings. He's not dependent on a television salary or production company contracts. He built a sustainable business model that gives him complete independence and control. His relationship with the rest of the crew is complex now. Some racers supported his departure and understood his frustrations. Others felt abandoned or betrayed. The dynamics have shifted, with Big Chief operating in his own sphere while his former crew continues with the show. There's mutual respect, but things aren't the same. Big Chief built an empire after leaving, but what about the racer who brought something completely different to the muscle car-dominated world of Street Outlaws? Boosted GT proved imports could hang with American muscle, but where did that lead him? Boosted GT, the import invasion. Talk about walking into hostile territory. Chris Hamilton, racing as Boosted GT, showed up to Street Outlaws with a turbocharged Nissan in a world absolutely dominated by American muscle cars. The sheer courage it took to challenge Chevys, Pontiacs, and Dodges with an import and then actually win races is legendary. The hate was real. Traditional muscle car guys talked constantly. They didn't think imports could compete on the same level. They saw tuner culture as inferior, foreign, not real racing. Boosted GT had to prove himself not just as a racer, but as a representative of an entire subset of car culture that muscle car purists look down on. But Boosted GT did something incredible. He won again and again. After his Street Outlaws run, Boosted GT turned his television exposure into serious business ventures. He understood that fame is temporary, but brands are forever. The strategy was to build something sustainable using the platform Street Outlaws provided, and it's working incredibly well. The business portfolio includes merchandise lines featuring his branding and iconic car images. But Boosted GT is smart about it. The merchandise appeals specifically to import enthusiasts, serving a market that traditional muscle car-focused racing brands often ignore. He's carved out a niche that has less competition and more devoted customers. Sponsorship deals with performance parts companies have been lucrative. Boosted GT partners with brands in the import performance world, lending his name and expertise to products he actually uses. Boosted GT has evolved beyond just street racing. He competes in various formats, from organized drag racing events to no-prep races that maintain the spirit of street racing in legal, sanctioned environments. This diversification keeps him competitive across multiple venues, while reducing the legal risks associated with pure street racing. His personal life remains relatively drama-free, at least publicly. Boosted GT has avoided the messy public breakups and controversies that plagued other Street Outlaws cast members. Whether that's luck or deliberate careful management of his public image, it's working. His brand stays focused on racing and cars rather than personal drama. Unlike Boosted GT, one racer's journey was filled with so much controversy and conflict that his story became as famous as his racing. What really happened with Chuck that made him one of the most polarizing figures in Street Outlaws history? Chuck, the villain America loved to hate. Known simply as Chuck, this racer became one of the most controversial and polarizing figures in Street Outlaws history. Love him or hate him, and plenty of people did plenty of both. Chuck was never boring. His racing skills were undeniable, but his personality created drama that kept audiences glued to their screens. Chuck's racing credentials were never in question. The dude was fast, aggressive, and fearless behind the wheel. But his personality was something else entirely. The relationship with Big Chief was television gold and personal disaster. These two had genuine beef that went way beyond manufactured reality TV drama. The rivalry was real. Racing competition backed by legitimate personal tension. Whether they genuinely disliked each other or production amplified natural friction is debatable. But the conflict was compelling enough to drive major storylines for multiple seasons. But the conflicts weren't limited to Big Chief. Chuck seemed to create drama wherever he went. Disagreements about racing rules, arguments over fair starts, and accusations of cheating. Chuck was always in the middle of something. Whether he was genuinely contentious or just made for great television villainy, the result was the same: constant controversy. Then came the exit from Street Outlaws, and it was messy as hell. The exact reasons have never been entirely clear, with different people offering different explanations. There were rumors about disagreements over race legitimacy, conflicts with production, and problems with other cast members. The stories varied depending on who was telling them. What was obvious was that Chuck's time on the main Street Outlaws show had ended badly. There was no friendly farewell episode or mutual agreement storyline. It was contentious, confusing, and left fans with more questions than answers. The drama extended beyond the show into social media, with various cast members and fans arguing about what really happened. But here's where Chuck's story gets interesting. He didn't disappear. While he was done with the OKC crew, Discovery Channel saw continued value in Chuck's personality and racing ability. He appeared in Street Outlaws, Memphis, racing against that city's competitors and creating new rivalries with new people. The Memphis appearances showed that any conflicts with the Oklahoma City crew were personal rather than professional. Chuck could still race, still create compelling television, and still bring viewers, just not with Big Chief and the original Street Outlaws cast. Since those appearances, Chuck has maintained a presence in the racing world, competing in various events, and continuing to build and race cars. His social media activity keeps fans updated on projects and races. Though he's less active than some other former cast members, Chuck seems more focused on actual racing than content creation or brand building. What's interesting is how many racers defended Chuck after he left the show. People who'd fought with him on camera said the real Chuck was actually a good guy, that production encouraged and amplified conflicts. It raises questions about how much of the villain's persona was real and how much was manufactured for television drama. Which Street Outlaws racer shocked you the most? Who would you want to see make a comeback on the show? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.